Hello and welcome to the Creative Academy. I'm Eileen and I'm here today with Crystal and Donna, and we're having a chance to look over Denise's science fiction story. So first off, there's a bunch of stuff that I love in this. I love the concept of having a refugee camp in space. I think that's going to open up some things for you. I'm going to do some general things, which is I would encourage, I know English is your second language, but there's a few places where you have some passive language happening and some things that I would like, it's just not quite the right word choice. So I would have you have someone go through and take a look through that so you can kind of get some extra cleanup that way. And that's the same also, even if English is your language and you're like me and you can't use a comma for love or money, then having someone else go through and help you with that is something that can help a lot. But when we look at it as an opening scene, Crystal, what are your thoughts?
So one of the things that jumped out at me was just that it's her thinking most of these things, and it's very explanatory. And so I totally understand, like, you're trying to set the scene and you're trying to give us the background we need, but it's a little bit of what we call an info dump, in that there's like so much stuff in there. And what would be really, really great is to see us go deeper into some aspect of this. So you had said right at the end, that last sentence is great. She's in her sleeping bag. She's been flipping and flopping and flipping around while she has all of these thoughts. And her husband turns to her and says, "You're turning like a turbo turbine. Nightmare again." And that is actually like the perfect opening. Like, if you flip that around, then it would let you work a lot of this other stuff into dialogue, which is something Donna's going to talk a bit more about. But really, we need some visuals, we need some action, we need some dialogue going on here in some fashion to really bring us immediately into the moment. So Donna, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about some options there.
Well, yeah, I read it, and I'm really intrigued by the whole idea. The fact, I love that she's a refugee. She was a refugee on Earth, and now she's a refugee in this ship. So she has that extra context, and that is telling me that there's going to be a lot of depth to her as a character. But the way this starts, I don't feel like I'm getting to know her at all, and so it felt like there are three different complete scenes all blended up in here. There's the conversation with Kaylee over her getting this programming position. I don't know what the stakes are if she doesn't get it. So I really want to be there in conversation, or to see her doing this thing where, she has to use her brain equally and with the two sides of her hands. I wanted to be there and see some of that and hear the conversation with Kaylee. I wanted to have a bit more conversation with her husband, the way Crystal said, like maybe, her husband should presumably will be important. So I wanted to get to know what that relationship is like. She's jealous of the fact that he gets to work late and she doesn't. And then the third one is all around the other people in the refugee camp. That feels like it might come. It's a whole other scene setting thing. So anyway, for me, it felt like there were three different distinct scenes that all got blended into one. And if they were to be exploded out, I'd know who she is a whole lot better.
Because one thing you do really well, Denise, is some of the descriptions, like the fact that she turns like a turbo turbine, and you have a lot of sensory details, which is one thing I really love, like things, how they smell and the sound of these people snoring and all that kind of stuff, and the sleeping bags, like all of that does such a great job to set the scene. So I want to make sure you get full kudos for that. But because there's so much happening, and because there's oftentimes like, I think it's in the second paragraph, you have one sentence that is almost the whole paragraph. And I ended up having to stop a few times and read that. And then I think to kind of build on what Donna's saying, because we're thinking about what's going on with the refugees and how there's different kinds and different levels of refugees, like some are more approved of than others. Then we're getting the things with her husband, and then we're getting also the thing with Kaylee is to narrow in a little bit. I think will give us more time to get grounded. So to maybe pick, as Donna's saying, one of those would be a great way to do it.
And just an FYI, I know Eileen said at the front end, you know, she's for love nor money cannot do commas. Ask Crystal and Eileen how many sentences of mine they flagged in my first draft of Scrappy Rough Draft that were as long as a full paragraph. Crystal's like, put this through Pro Writing Aid. Please put this through Pro Writing Aid to get the reading level. Please shorten your sentences. I am also a bit of a comma user. I like to anyway, so that actually didn't bother me at all. I was totally comfortable there. Anyway.
Well, that'll work perfectly. So, but I think it's a good reminder for all of us, is that I actually find oftentimes people who are English as a second language, that usually have their grammar more correct than the rest of us. So it's not that, I think there's just a few places where it'll read a little bit easier. So that's what we're going for.
Yeah.
So on that, keep writing, Denise. You're on the right track. And for everyone else, send us your pages, and we'll see you around the academy. Bye-bye.